Welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast, brought to you by TournamentPokerEdge.com, the only podcast dedicated exclusively to poker tournament strategy. Now here's your host, Clayton Fletcher.
Hello once again, everybody, and welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast. My name is Clayton Fletcher, and I'm your host, and today I am in gorgeous, bustling, vibrant St. Paul, Minnesota, happy to be bringing you yet another edition of the world's longest running poker strategy podcast. That's right, I'm in Minnesota. I'm performing at a place I've never been before. It's called Camp Comedy this weekend, tonight and tomorrow, April 11th and 12th, 2025. The shows are at 8 p.m. and you can get tickets by clicking the link in the description of this podcast where it says come see stand-up comedy live or something to that effect. It's my link tree and it's got everything you need right there. I hope to see some of you in the great state of Minnesota this weekend. Also, as I'm recording this on Thursday, April 10th, I'm actually prepping to head over to Running Aces Casino where the MSPT is happening. There's an $1,100 quote-unquote championship event called the Minnesota State Poker Championship. It's a $500,000 guarantee, and the schedule works perfectly for me because I can play today, Thursday, perform Friday and Saturday, and then if I happen to make day two, that is this coming Sunday, April 13th. So I hope to be spending quite a bit of time at Running Aces. I actually got here yesterday and played in a pretty wild cash game last night. It was Omaha, but it's not PLO. For some reason, in the great state of Minnesota, they do not allow no limit, but they allow spread limit. So you can bet anywhere from $2 up to $100. Kind of strange. You end up being priced in a lot if the pots get really big, and then your opponent can only bet 100 on the river, and there's 800 in the middle, so you're getting 9-1 on a call. So it's quite a different game than I'm used to. Being able to bet the pot when you're playing Omaha is obviously a huge advantage to be able to protect your hands and, maximize your ability to realize your equity and whatnot. But, different places have different rules. I believe this one is on a Indian reservation or something like that, and they have their own set of rules. No slot machines in this place, but you can play electronic blackjack and things like that if that's your thing or whatever. Not super impressed so far with the customer service there at Running Aces Casino. The first guy I talked to in the poker room, I was trying to get spread limit explained to me, and he was about to tell me, and then he rolled his eyes and gestured toward someone else who works in the poker room and said, he'll tell you. So that's always nice when I tell someone I'm visiting here from out of town, I'm here for the MSPT, it's my first time, and that's how they treat me. So kind of want to take a few marks down. It kind of is giving me a little bit of Turning Stone vibes early on, and I'm going to reserve judgment, of course, and figure out what I think of the place generally, but the first impression, let's say, was not good. I've been traveling so much, you guys. I was in New Jersey last week, and we're actually going to have a hand later on in the podcast. I played in a bunch of events in New Jersey, including the online circuit mystery bounty event and the $215 Sunday major. That is, I remember when WSOP.com got started and you could only be in one of two places. Those were Nevada and New Jersey. Now we've got Michigan and I think maybe Pennsylvania and somebody else playing with us. And the prize pools are big. The fields are large. It's really great. So I'm excited about the WSOP online situation. I don't know if they're doing bracelet events this summer. I can't imagine that they wouldn't. But for whatever reason, as we sit here on April 10th, just a scant 6 weeks out from the World Series of Poker, that schedule has not been released. No one's saying how many online bracelet events we're going to have. Could this have something to do with the fact that GG Poker did purchase all the rights to the WSOP itself, and they're trying to figure out how to leverage that this summer? Are they waiting on some announcement from maybe another state to join the union? This is obviously pure speculation on my part, so please don't take anything I'm saying as inside information. But by now, you would think that all the schedules would be out. The Venetian schedule came out for this summer, and they're having a $1,600 seniors event with a $2 million guarantee and 4 starting days, among other things. There's also a $2,500 ladies event at the Venetian this summer, which is probably the largest price for a ladies only tournament that I've ever seen. I'll be very curious to see what sort of turnout they get for that one. Anyway, I hope to see some of you at Camp Comedy this weekend in St. Paul, Minnesota. I also have shows coming up next week in Louisville, Kentucky, and Chattanooga, Tennessee. Clubs I've never been to before. It would be great if some of the listeners could come out and show their support, and maybe these clubs will hire me back, assuming I don't bomb. By the way, guys, we are celebrating a big anniversary here at Tournament Poker Edge. 15 years of existence for Tournament Poker Edge, which started the day before Black Friday, because my friend Derek Killingbird Tenbush has always had remarkable timing. So the day after TPE was announced and became a publicly known entity is the day before the worst day in the history of online poker happened. So what does that tell us? But we survived, and TPE is still a thing. It's mostly a podcast at this point, but we do have a website that you can go to and learn about poker, tournamentpokeredge.com. And many of the pros from the early days, like Casey Jarzabek and Mark Alioto, among others, are rumored to be participating in a very special free roll, an online free roll this weekend on Sunday, celebrating 15 years of Tournament Poker Edge. We're going to have 1,500 players in the tournament. I'm curious to find out how many of those players will be from countries that are not familiar with Tournament Poker Edge, but that's beside the point. 1,500 players and a $1,500 guarantee for this special event this coming Sunday, April 13th, that I hope to miss because I'll be playing day 2 of the Minnesota State Poker Championship. But you can find out more about this and everything else that's going on at TPE by using our Discord. There's a link in the description. Join the TPE Discord. It's absolutely free. Before we get to poker strategy, I just want to give a shout out to my friend and former podcast guest, Nikki Limo, who is now working for Club WPT Gold. And she released what I think is the funniest poker video of all time. And believe me, guys, I worked for Poker.org last summer. I've done tons of commentary for Poker Go and Poker Stars and the World Poker Tour and on and on and on. I know how hard it is to make poker funny. At the end of the day, it's a strategy game. It's a gambling game. There is mathematics involved and psychological warfare, not all of which is easily translatable into a comedy sketch, but Nikki Limo has done it. I want you guys to check her out on Twitter or Instagram or wherever you find your content. And if this video that she put out doesn't make you laugh hysterically, I just think there's something wrong with your funny bone. You should probably have that looked at. All right, let's talk about GTO Wizard, because I'm about to use GTO Wizard to go over last week's hand and find out whether the plays that I made in last week's episode would be approved or disapproved by a perfect artificial intelligence poker playing computer robot type. Okay, so GTO Wizard is a tool. You can study any spot. You can practice against an artificial intelligence expert opponent that I promise will kick your butt. You can learn ranges. You can do drills to practice playing a certain spot, figure out when you're supposed to check raise, when you're supposed to fold, when you're supposed to call, etc., etc. It's the best tool on the market that I know of for improving your poker game, and it's actually been improving mine for over a year now, and I want you guys to learn about this product. You can try it for free for 24 hours. If you click the affiliate link in the description of this podcast, then you can get 24 hours full access so you can see how everything works and try it out for yourself. And then when you're ready to buy, because you click that affiliate link in the first place, you'll actually save 10% off of your first purchase. And that link is gtowizard.com/p/TPE. So let's go back and look at last week's hand. I was playing an online $109 buy-in tournament with a $150,000 guarantee that actually ended up being over 180,000, so over 35,000 for first place, as I recall. So I was definitely paying a lot of attention. I was also live streaming this event while playing. And if you want to catch my next live stream, that's twitch.tv/ClaytonComic. And you can follow and watch me play. I use a 3-minute delay so you can always see what cards I have at all times. There were 96 players left in this thing. We were in the money. I was doing great. I was in 11th place at the time of this hand. There were several even bigger stacks on my left. If you listened last week, you remember this hand. The blinds were 3,500 and 7K with an 850 ante. I had over 80 times the big blind with less than 100 players remaining. My M was 35. I was doing well, guys. I was in second position. The first player folded. I held the ace of hearts, jack of diamonds, and I opened to 14,000, just the minimum. I said last week I knew the solver wants to go a little bigger, especially at this stack depth, but I decided to just do the min raise here. I also said it would be fine with me if you don't even want to play this hand from early position, because it can be a bit of a trap hand to play. And you can probably make an even stronger case for that when you consider that I had even bigger stacks on my left and there were no bounty prizes to collect. So maybe we should just be folding. Obviously, the solver doesn't like to fold any decent hand from any position. So the solver is playing ace jack as well as ace 6 suited and lots of other hands that I'm typically folding. I played it at this table just because I felt like people were getting a little bit cautious as they were starting to sense their chances of making the final table of this big tournament were increasing and they didn't want to blow it or whatever. You'll see that sometimes later in tournaments. People who are kind of frisky in the beginning, they kind of tighten up and want to see, make sure they have a really good hand. They don't want to make a big mistake and then have to kick themselves and go tell their friends how they punted. So when I feel like that's what's happening at my table, I like to try to open a few more hands. Anyway, the solver 100% opens ace jack off from second position. No problem here. And the big blind was the only caller. So we're going to see a flop, 36K in the middle. And the flop came 7 of diamonds, deuce of diamonds, deuce of clubs. The big blind checked and the action's on me. I said I would pretty much always bet this flop and I didn't need to bet very much. I bet 9K, so 1/4 pot. And the villain check raised just very small to 22,750. And so at that point, the pot was 71,000 or so, and it only cost me about 13K more to call. In position, I have the jack of diamonds just in case. And most of all, I just didn't believe that this guy had hit that board hard enough to check raise it. I thought he may have a flush draw, although I discounted that a bit because I had the jack of diamonds. But still, he could have 2 other diamonds, of course. And I didn't feel like he was really check raising for value. I felt like this was going to be a bluff a lot more often than I used to think. And I decided to hang in there and hang on for dear life. And so I made the call. We also talked about how I actually considered shoving on this flop. Remember, villain in this hand only started with 20 big blinds. So once he check raised me, then, shoving isn't that unreasonable in this situation. The advantage, I said, to shoving is that you clean up equity. Like he doesn't get to play a hand like 10-9 with 1 diamond or whatever he might be doing this with as a bluff, maybe like 9-8, right? With a diamond is like 7-8-9. So he's got a lot of cards he can double barrel on the turn or whatever and stack off with. I didn't want him to be able to hit a pair and beat my ace jack so easily. So I did strongly consider shoving, but I instead decided to call. And the reason for that was to keep his bluffs in. I was really eager to find out what the solver would say about my decision to just flat this check raise. And it turns out the wizard loves it, guys. My sizing on the flop betting a 1/4 pot is good. And then when the small check raise comes out, the wizard actually calls half the time and shoves the rest. Please note, we never fold to this check raise with ace-jack. Never. And I can tell you guys for sure, a year ago, before I really started to delve in to GTO Wizard and all that you can learn from this amazing tool, I was definitely folding in this spot way too often. Way too often. I would want the ace of diamonds, or at least an overpair, and I was pretty much folding everything else in these spots. Maybe I would call with sixes, or if I somehow had a 7 in my hand. But yeah, I was doing way too much folding, and I certainly wasn't calling with enough ace-jack type of hands. But I'm in position. I've got the backdoor diamonds just in case, and it's just so unlikely that our opponent hit anything at all. And we're also getting a great price. As mentioned, it's only 13K more to call. I shouldn't let this guy have it, at least not yet. So guys, don't fold in this spot. And this is an improvement that GTO Wizard has taught me that I'm now implementing into my game, especially online. Anyway, on the turn with 84K in the middle, the turn came out the king of clubs. And then the opponent continued betting, which I thought was odd. Like, why would he keep betting on a card that's clearly better for my range than for his? Like, even if he check raised me on the flop with a hand like pocket eights or pocket nines, and for whatever reason they didn't want to get all in pre-flop against my early position raise, which is fine. But yeah, they might like the flop enough to check raise and see where they're at, but they're not going to continue betting on a king. So I felt like this was a better card for me, and he's betting anyway. And when we feel that way, it's a strong indication that our opponent could be bluffing. When something doesn't make sense, it usually means a super monster like 4 deuces or a stone cold bluff. And so because of that, I called the 31,000 bet from my opponent. And at that point, there was 147,000 in the middle, and Villain with only 78K, just over half of a pot size bet remaining for the river. So let's look at this play on the turn. Does the solver call with just ace high on this double barrel? And the answer is half the time. The solver splits calling here 50% with ace jack and fold the rest. So that means where we do shove over the check raise on the flop, we never shove over the turn bet. It's a call or fold situation, 50-50 right down the middle. So my play is solver approved. And then the river came the 5 of clubs, and my opponent finally checked to me, and I shoved, and Villain laid it down. The wizard actually checks my specific combo of ace jack 100% of the time. So to be specific, my play is not solver approved on the river, but there are some shoves from other ace jack offsuit combos. My having the jack of diamonds makes it better for us to just check behind, because Villain won't have the busted flush draw as much as we want him to when we shove. I'm guessing. Maybe you guys can give me some more insight as to why we want to check behind when we have that jack of diamonds, but when we have some other ace jack offsuit combo with no diamonds, we do shove. Now, not very often. It's still an 88% check overall, but 12% of our ace jack offsuit combos we do shove here, as I did in real life. So pretty eye-opening stuff from GTO Wizard, as always. I'm telling you guys, if you're getting ready to go to Vegas this summer and you want to give yourself a really good chance of winning and just understand the theory behind poker in a different way, GTO Wizard can absolutely help you do that. Click that link and save yourself 10%, plus get 24 hours all access on me. All right, let's move on, guys. I want to talk about a new hand. This is one that I played last Sunday. I was in New Jersey streaming live on twitch.tv/ClaytonComic, and I was playing in an online circuit mystery bounty event. But I want to talk about a hand I played in the $100,000 Sunday Major on WSOP.com. It's a $215 buy-in, which is exactly what the buy-in was back in the olden days on Party Poker. Those of you who go back like I do to the Moneymaker boom, we had a regular Sunday Million on Poker Stars that we all used to play. Everybody I knew used to play in this tournament each and every week. Millions and millions of dollars wagered internationally when online poker was all the rage. And yes, that tournament was known as the Sunday Major or Sunday Million. But yeah, 100,000 guarantee. They had eventually gotten closer to 130,000 when all was said and done. But at this point in the hand that I want to discuss, we are still in the registration period, actually 90 minutes remaining in registration. These online tournaments have really long registration periods. You can buy in so late to these things. And when you do, you're at a disadvantage because everybody else has a much bigger stack than you. So your stack is well below average. But I guess the advantage is you have a better chance of cashing. If you buy in late and then double up, you'll probably make it into the money. Although when you get into the money, you're very unlikely to have a very large stack. But somewhere along the line, somebody figured out that late regging a lot of tournaments is plus EV. And I would say that the Sunday Major on WSOP.com is one of those tournaments where buying in very late does actually make sense if all you care about is having something that is plus EV. I think that my EV is stronger when I buy in from the beginning of these tournaments because I think that even at this price point, with these rules and regulations in place limiting access, meaning I don't have to play against everyone in America even, much less everyone around the world, I think that I am generally a favorite versus the field in a $200 buy-in on WSOP online. Now, if you watched my stream last Sunday, you may have noticed I was not wearing a bathrobe, and it's possible that because of that, I did not have an edge over the field, but I still managed to make a few bucks at the end of the day. So here we go. 90 minutes left in registration. I'm doing great, by the way. The average is 28,000 and I have 58,000. The blinds are 200 and 400 with a 50 ante. So we've got 150 big blinds and an M of 58. We're sitting 13th out of the 151 players from 4 or 5 different states involved in the action. I'm in the small blind, guys. And what happens is the player in middle position, maybe 4th position, he's very loose aggressive. I've already made notes on him that he seems to be getting really involved in a lot of different hands. He min raises to 800 off of a stack of 36,000. And the action folds to me in the small blind. And I'm holding my favorite hand, Ace of Hearts, 5 of Hearts. Well, it doesn't have to be hearts, but I love Ace 5 suited in my 3-bet bluffing range. So guess what I did? That's right, I 3-bet. I made it 2,800, so about 3.5 times the original raise. I think now that's a mistake. I should go probably a little bigger, especially against this opponent, maybe like 32, 3,400. But, we can quibble with the numbers. But yeah, I think when you're out of position, it's probably better to build the pot pre-flop and give yourself a better chance to take it down right now. Anyway, the big blind folded and the original raiser called for 2,000 more. So now we're going to see a flop. We're going to be heads up, out of position, hero with the Ace of Hearts, 5 of Hearts. With 7,000 in the middle, the flop comes Ace of Diamonds, Queen of Spades, Deuce of Diamonds. So Ace, Queen, Deuce with 2 diamonds, hero with the Ace 5 of Hearts, and I am first to act. Having 3-bet pre-flop and now flopping an ace, I'll bet I'm supposed to bet this flop. It's just a better flop for my range overall as the 3-better, and I'm probably just supposed to take control of this hand, maybe put in, I don't know, half the pot or so, and usually take it down, I'm guessing. Instead, I went for the unorthodox play and checked to the player who was in position, my loose, aggressive opponent. I checked to him and he fires 3,500, half the pot, and I made the call. So now, with 14,000 in the middle, the turn comes the 8 of diamonds, completing the flush. So our board is now Ace of Diamonds, Queen of Spades, Deuce of Diamonds, 8 of Diamonds. And remember, we just have Ace 5 of Hearts. I checked again, and the opponent double-barreled me. He bet 7,000 into the 14,000 pot. And I'm starting to wonder, is my pair of aces any good? And would it have been better to continuation bet on the flop instead of checking and bluff catching with this hand that can be pretty hard to play from the small blind, which is probably a good reason to 3-bet a little larger so that we can take it down more, so that we don't end up in this type of situation versus this type of opponent. But here we are, Clayton, and what are you supposed to do? I don't know. And maybe it's just a fold. Maybe we get outplayed. There has to be some folds in our range. But I was just having trouble putting this opponent on a flush. Maybe he's got king, jack of diamonds, and he got there on the turn. Possibly he's got some suited, maybe like a jack 10 of diamonds. There are some flushes in his range, but knowing that he doesn't have the ace or the queen of diamonds makes it pretty hard for him to have a lot of flushes. And if he doesn't have a flush, why isn't he worried that I do? Is it because I also would probably need to have the ace or the queen of diamonds to have a flush myself? I'm not sure, but he's betting anyway, and I wasn't ready to give up on this hand. I made the call. So again, I was offered 3-1 on a half pot bet, and I called once more, and now this pot is inflated to 28,000, and Villain has only 22,000 remaining in his stack. And the river comes the 4 of hearts, our final board. Ace, queen, deuce, 8, 4 with 3 diamonds, and I checked once more, and now he shoves, and I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I can't wait to put this spot into GTO Wizard for next week's episode and figure out what the heck I'm supposed to do. I feel like I was trapping, checking an ace is a unorthodox play and something that I did for reasons like I want him to bluff me, and then he's bluffing me. And once I set everything up, quote unquote, perfectly, I put myself in this position where I really didn't want to call 22,000 on the river. I gave up and folded, and I still don't know what we were up against. I want to hear what you guys think between now and next week. Let me know how you would have played this hand. Did I make a mistake? Did I make several mistakes? Should I stop considering myself a favorite over the field in the $200 tournaments on WSOP.com? And that'll do it for this episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please give us a good review, rating, and everything on wherever the heck you're listening to this. And come out and see me performing in St. Paul, Chattanooga, or Louisville in the next couple of weeks. I hope to see some of you guys at my shows. And for everyone here at Tournament Poker Edge, now celebrating 15 years of existence, I'm Clayton Fletcher. Thank you so much for listening.
I wanna hold them like they do in Texas plays. Fold them, let them hit me, raise it, baby, stay with me. Luck and intuition, play the cards with babes to start. And after she's been hooked, I'll play the one that's on her heart.